Make sure to go and check out all of our latest merch at paddockmerch.com. We've got loads of new designs and even more products coming all the time. With 2 or more items, you get 20% off using the code Paddock20. And if you remember, there's even bigger discounts available. Link is in the description. Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the Stretford Paddock Podcast. You could call it an emergency Paddock podcast. An emergency podcast has been called. That's the most 2021 thing ever, isn't it? You know what? Crisis time. Let's have a podcast. I'm joined by Jay Motti. How you doing?
I'm all right, man. It just feels a little bit weird today, doesn't it?
You're currently checking the odds of the next Manchester United manager before we go through them and dissect them. It's
a bit sad because we all knew today was coming, but there's a part of me that didn't want it because that obviously means he's failed ultimately. Yeah. And we all wanted Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to succeed. So yeah, it is a bit sad. Thank you. None of that filth.
And James Young is here as well. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good.
You looking good?
Yeah.
Still get your puffer jacket on?
Yeah.
You're not staying.
Take it off. Take your jacket
you won't
off,
feel the
man.
benefit when you get outside.
Why you got a jacket on? I just realised. I know I've got a jacket on. You've got a puffer jacket on.
You're going to be freezing when you get outside.
Actually, for viewers of the Scotty and Motti channel, this is the coat that we were talking about.
This is the coat. That may be the most niche reference ever said on the Paddock Podcast. Let us know your thoughts on Manchester United's next manager at home. We're going to be going through some of the options, weighing up who's good, who's bad, who we like, who we don't like. Is that the hole that you made love through one time? Well, I don't want to say where it was, but it was a car boot sale, wasn't it?
The one from Lost Property.
Is it? Right. Let's start
with some sanity.
With the news.
Right.
We all know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been sacked.
Yes.
Yeah?
He has.
The next piece of news, again, we all know this, but we're just establishing some ground rules here. Michael Carrick will take charge as a sort of interim until the interim, assistant to the regional manager.
Nice.
He will take charge of the upcoming matches or forthcoming matches. I can't remember the exact phrase.
Forthcoming, I think, is the term they used.
And then while we look for an interim manager to take us to the end of the season, right?
Yeah.
Got your heads around that?
Yeah.
Sorted.
That suggests to me that the next manager is only going to be sort of temporary as well. Okay?
Yeah. So the end of the season.
So the conversation we're going to have today is who should be that temporary manager and then who should be that full-time manager that comes at the end of the season. It's very simple. Makes a lot of sense. Get your thoughts in the comments below as well. Everyone's got opinions on this. Give us a who and a why as well.
Yeah.
Because just, Ten Hag, Pochettino, whoever, back to back.
Yeah, because we're getting people just throwing in names, which is fine. But if you can, just say why. Yeah. Why do you feel like Ten Hag? Why do you feel like Steve Bruce? Which is what Dwayne Smith said.
So you have a list there of the most bookies' favourites to become Manchester United's next permanent manager.
Yeah, so I've just jumped on the first betting site I could find, really. And these are the odds that they're using for the next United manager. So they've got Brendan Rodgers at 5-2.
As favourite?
I think that is favourite, yeah. Yeah, it is. That's favourite. So Brendan Rodgers. This is for next permanent manager, by the way.
David Bellion. Jemba.
Yeah, definitely. Michael Carrick at 7-2. Pochettino at 5-1. Zidane at 6-1. Ten Hag at 9-1. Rangnick at 10-1. Luis Enrique at 16-1. Laurent Blanc at 20-1. Darren Fletcher at 25-1. Lopetegui at 33-1. Massimiliano Allegri at 33-1 Fergie at 40-1.
I think we can end it there, can't we? If it's less likely than Fergie. Okay.
Yeah, come on. I'll go through quick. I'll not go all of them, but Simeone 40-1, Martinez 40-1, Koeman 40-1, Southgate 50-1, Potter 50-1, Joachim Low 50-1, Rooney 50-1, Wenger 66-1, Ronaldo 80-1, Moyes 80-1, Mike Phelan 80-1, Emery 80-1. Bruce 100-1, Guardiola 150-1, Phil Neville 150-1, Sean Dyche 200-1.
Surprised that Alan Kirbishley's not made it to the list.
Surprised Andy Tate. Andy Tate was on it last time. You remember when we sat Jose?
Was it?
You could get odds on Andy Tate. No, it wasn't very likely, but yeah, they gave you odds.
Let's start at the top of that list then. So Pochettino, according to them, is the most favourite man or the favourite to take over full time. I wonder whether this is
Rodgers is the favourite. Yeah. Carrick's second favourite.
Sorry, I meant to say Rodgers. Sorry.
Pochettino's third favourite.
I wonder whether does interim count as permanent?
No.
Because why would Carrick be on there as permanent?
Because the idea there, the feeling is, if he does what Ole did,
he might get the job.
If he goes on this mad run now and wins all his games, which is more or less what Ollie did as caretaker,
he might get the interim job till the end of the season, and from there he might get the full-time job.
So there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes. But let me give you the full lowdown of how they're working out the permanent manager. Caretaker and interim managers completing at least 10 competitive games will be deemed the permanent manager.
Right.
So the interim could be the interim could be according to these is permanent. Okay. So if you do 10 games, 10 competitive games, that is classed as permanent.
So that makes sense then why Carrick is more favoured over Zidane or Poch.
You presume he's got 3 games, but if he wins all 3, they might go, well, you can look after it till the end of the season.
Okay. And that probably would have happened with Ryan Giggs if it wasn't so close towards the end of the season with Moyes.
He
had 4 games.
And he
beat Hull, lost to Norwich, I think was it.
We lost at home to Sunderland, didn't we? I think we lost, didn't we? And we drew it away at Southampton, I think. So I mean, it wasn't a great result, was it?
Should we start with Rodgers? Let us know your thoughts on Brendan Rodgers in the comments. My thoughts on Rodgers are that he's a decent manager, but I don't think he would just join till the end of the season.
Right.
I think if we get Rodgers, he's going to want 1, certainly, 2, probably 3-year contract.
Yeah.
He's leaving a club that he's doing pretty well at. I know they're not doing so well this season, but I don't think he's close to being sacked by Leicester by any means. It's a big step up for him, but it is something that he needs assurances of in terms of medium term at least. He's not just going to come to the end of the season, is he?
No.
Because that damages his reputation at Leicester. Where would he then leave to if he did leave Manchester United? But I suppose the other thought with that is, if Rodgers does come to the end of the season, like we said there, Michael Carrick is like the second most popular on that list. And that's because the assumption is, like Ollie did, if he does well, he might get it next season. So if you say to Rodgers, come into the end of the season, if he wins as the Champions League, he's the manager at the start of next year. Yeah. We aren't going to sack someone who wins as the Champions League.
No.
So this is an interim, but it's also a sort of an elongated audition, even longer than the one Ollie had. What was that, 11 games, 12 games, was it? Something like that.
Yeah.
This is 30 games if you play your cards right. So this is a big chunk of games for a manager to really cement himself as, if you win a trophy, you are one of only a handful of Manchester United managers to win a trophy.
Yeah.
So, let's say he comes in and wins the FA Cup. I bet if Brendan Rodgers comes in, it's only till the end of the season, it's interim. If he wins as an FA Cup and changes the style of play and we look like we're well drilled, I bet you he'd start the season next year as manager. And he probably knows that. For me, that doesn't fill me with too much excitement. Brendan Rodgers is someone that has done well, has done all right, but doesn't do things where you go, gee, how's he done that?
No. I think that with Rodgers, the same thing will happen to United with Solskjaer, where they'll finish maybe 2nd, 3rd or 4th, but they'll never be able to compete for a title. Because Rodgers, when he has, especially with Liverpool, he failed completely. He should have won the league that season. He completely bottled it. With Leicester, he's actually probably underperformed. With the squad that he's had, he should have got them into the top 4, and he hasn't.
When you consider how poor United were that season, like the season before last.
He's won the FA Cup, okay, fair enough, and he did a good job in Scotland when it came to winning the league there, but I mean, Rangers weren't really about at the same time, so it was easier for him. But I think there are question marks over him, especially because I just think if he comes to United, there's absolutely no guarantee that United are going to compete for titles under him. And ultimately, that's where United needs to be in terms of that. I know it's a gradual process and it's not going to happen in 1-2 seasons, but I just don't think he's the right manager. I think he's at the same level as Solskjaer when it comes to being that manager that will just take United there almost. But he won't be the person that will push them further on and win stuff.
Wait, I agree. I actually agree with what you said. But just to play devil's advocate, is there not an argument to be made that, okay, for everyone who's available, Premier League experience, kind of all sort of some success in the Premier League. Like you look at, it's not been great, but it's not been a disaster. Finished 2nd with the Scousers.
No, he's never been terrible.
You know what I mean? 2 top 5 finishes with Leicester or whatever it is. I know it's not the FA Cup. The FA Cup isn't the Premier League, but it's English football.
Did a good job with Swansea as well.
Did a good job with Swansea. Has won a trophy. Has won trophies in. Okay, it's a bit of a one-horse race, but you could have said that about Tuchel in France.
Yeah.
Has that experience of the Premier League, has won trophies, has a style of play, which is what Ollie's been accused of not having. Is there not a case to go, actually, if you look who's available, he's not. That's all right, that's sort of ticking a lot of boxes, that. Won some trophies, has a style of play, Premier League experience, done well in the Premier League, I think you can say.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not for me. Can you see why he's the favourite?
I get it.
Do you think that is
but I think the reason
paper talk in
The reason he is the favourite is because he's the most available.
Right,
like when you look at who we can definitely get on one axis and who is the best on the other, he's probably the highest up on who we can get, and he's not too far over on, or he's relatively far over on who's pretty good as well. Yeah. You look at someone like Ten Hag, further over on who's good, but lower down on who's available. We're looking at a sort of a graph. This is the problem when you sack a manager in November, not everyone's available. Zidane is available and very good, but he doesn't want to come. Or his wife doesn't want him to come, or there's some hold up there that seems to be based on his willingness to join.
It's a big risk for him as well. I mean, he can hold out for the PSG job and get that, and pretty much do an okay job there, and maybe compete for Champions Leagues and stuff. United, even though they've got still a big reputation, they're not in the same sort of breadth as your Real Madrids, your PSGs of the world, in the sense that it's going to take some building work to get them back to that position.
Yeah.
And especially with the Glazers, especially with Woodward, we've seen before with managers the likes of Van Gaal, the likes of Mourinho, who have had big reputations that have come into United, and it's not worked out for them. And after that, Van Gaal's done okay with the Dutch national team, but Mourinho's career has kind of stagnated since then.
Yeah.
It can work backwards as well for managers.
If you look as well at the competition in the Premier League, it is as competitive a league in terms of the teams, the money and the managers that you have to beat as I would say any league in history. Maybe Italy in the late 90s is up there as well in terms of Fiorentina and Inter and Juve and Lazio and all these teams that were excellent around that time. But this is as good as a league gets. To have any one of Chelsea, Liverpool or City winning the Champions League would not surprise anyone.
No.
They are three of the best 5 teams, I think, in the world.
Yep.
Or that, put PSG and Bayern Munich in there, and then you can sort of argue about Juve and Barca and Real Madrid after that, or Atletico. But you have to beat such good teams and good managers to win the league. You can be sensational. Zidane could come in, be fantastic, get the squad playing the right way, have a style of play to the potential of the squad. Well, Zidane, because we're talking about how his lack of willingness to come. He could do all of those things and still win nothing.
Yeah.
Because you still have to beat Chelsea, Liverpool, City to Champions Leagues, to FA Cups, to Premier Leagues. He could, he failed at Man United because he didn't win anything.
It's a bit like Pellegrini when he went to Real Madrid, isn't it? When Pellegrini went to Real Madrid, broke all the records, and finished second.
Exactly, because he was against the best team ever.
It's also overlooked that he won the league with City before Guardiola came in.
No,
when people talk about Guardiola's achievements at City, he's only been able to do what Pellegrini has done, which is win a league title.
Yeah.
So same with Mancini as well. City have obviously got a structure there where if you're a good manager, I don't think just anyone could. But if you're a good manager, there's a chance that you're going to at least have a title challenge.
I mean, we can.
Pellegrini's not the best manager in the world, but he won a title. Mancini, again, it's set up to succeed. Where at United, it just seems like we're almost set up for short-termism constantly, and it doesn't work. I'll get in some of the super chats and some of the comments. MS Doon says, Ten Hag plays attacking football, works well with youth, and ball managers statistically proven to be more successful. MUFC Steve's been a member of the Academy for 8 months. Thanks for your support. Have we missed the boat this season not getting Conte in? Evening, Jay, Ahmed, Joe, and is that James Acaster? You get that all the time, don't you, Mr. Young?
It is, actually.
It is. Look, this is what, little do you know, we've actually, we've gone big time. Conte, just quickly on that.
Yeah.
Have we missed the boat with him?
Well, by definition, yes.
No, but
is it a boat we wanted to get on?
Are you disappointed we didn't get him?
No.
Right, are you?
I mean, I think he's a better fit than Rodgers in terms of, I think he's got more experience in winning Premier League trophies, and in terms of an instant fix until the end of the season, then I think he'd probably be a good option. But I think going to Spurs for him is a strange one, because there's no guarantee that he'll be successful there either, like Mourinho, and they're not even in the Champions League this season, and there's no guarantee that they'll be in it next season either. So it's a strange move for him to go to Spurs.
Yeah, I don't know why he went to Spurs. Especially after rejecting him in the summer.
I don't know,
I
weird,
think that makes him look a bit weaker, to be honest.
You don't know what goes on behind closed doors, do you?
No.
Like, something's been said there and offered where it might just be, massive wages and stuff that's like, listen, give me, 18 months of your life and you'll be a very, very rich man. And he's like, okay then. Do you know what I mean? And also, if you don't succeed, no one's going to judge you because no one ever does it.
And we'll throw in some free tickets to watch the NFL whilst you're here.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what matters.
Should we move on to...
so we've done Rodgers.
Yeah.
Carrick.
I think it's a bit of a... it's not going to happen.
I think it's going to be... They're going to be a sort of once bitten, twice shy. Even if Carrick goes on a run, they're going to be like, do we just do what we did with Ollie and give it to the man?
Unless there's something behind the scenes where he's genuinely a phenomenal tactician and he was just following the instructions of Ollie, which is why we look sort of, lacking in terms of structure on the pitch. if that's the case, and there's a sort of Guardiola thing, like, no, honestly, this guy is something else. Maybe then, but I don't think just he gets a few decent results and we know him. That can't be enough this time.
I don't even think he'll be allowed to change the structure of the club, though, like a Ten Hag wants to, or like a Guardiola, because I've said this so many times, but United aren't set up to win trophies. And the issue is, you can have a manager that wants to play a certain philosophy or a certain style, but if the board go, right, we're signing this player, or they don't give him the transfer funds or the positions that they want, it must be so frustrating when you've got a clear vision of what you want to do for United, but you've got a board that is just not interested in an ownership that is so absent from the whole thing that it's just never going to work, I don't think, under this current structure.
Yeah, I think Carrick is a bit of a non-starter in terms
of I think you're right. I think it'd have to be something ridiculous for that to happen. Poch.
He seems, just from what you hear and how it feels, and I know that is no metric, and that is, I think he's who United want.
He's been linked with his job for
3 years.
Well, since he was almost after he left Southampton.
Yeah.
He's been sort of touted as a potential Manchester United manager. I remember me and Steve doing a video when Van Gaal was manager, and Poch was linked with it then, just before Jose came in. I mean,
there's something going on there.
There is obviously a reason why he keeps getting linked.
And it's not just United, though, because he keeps getting these jobs. Like, he went from Tottenham, did pretty well. Let's be honest, getting them to the Champions League final is good. They didn't win it. They were terrible in the final, as we've said. But then he gets sacked from Tottenham and somehow gets arguably the most sort of... I know it's a bit of a poison chalice managing PSG, but it's such a free hit as a manager. Because you're probably going to win the league, which he didn't. But, it's relatively easy to win the league there. And all you kind of have to do is do pretty well with an incredible team. How did he get that job? He's a manager that's never won anything, that his highest he's ever got to is third, I think, and maybe finished second.
No, he finished second 1 year, I think.
Right, okay. But, he's
never... I get you.
It wasn't the title challenge,
the year they challenged for the title, they finished third.
Yeah, they did. They finished third in a 2-horse race.
Yeah. And then he gets that huge job at PSG. How did that happen? He must be excellent. There must be something going on there. And I'm just saying this based on the fact that somehow everyone in football seems to rate him really highly, despite the fact that on the pitch, he's pretty good, if not quite good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I agree.
He's not like Tuchel almost had a similar thing where it's like, you look at what he's done, he's never done anything amazing, and yet everyone rates him incredibly highly. Goes to Chelsea, wins the Champions League, reputation secured, we won't question him anymore. But I feel like there must be something going on with Poch. He must have, like we're saying with Carrick, he must have this sort of semi-genius
he's
kind of...
He's very popular amongst the XG
circles. Yes, people love him. But you know what I mean? Like football people, like behind-the-scenes people talk so highly of him, and yet it never translates to anything. He didn't even win the league with PSG the first time in, 7 years they didn't win it? And yet he's still linked with United. Like you said, it seems like Fergie and the board have wanted him for between 3 and 5 years, depending on what reports you're looking at. Everyone loves him. I think if we can get him, he's the one that we want. What do you reckon, James?
Go on, James.
I don't know. I think the fact that he's not won as much as he could have done is not ideal.
Yeah.
I think to be honest, I mean, you can see in that when he took over from Nigel Adkins at Southampton, the complete overhaul within the first season, basically, where he took Southampton with, which let's not forget, we're basically in a relegation battle, was a really good achievement.
Yeah.
I think he took Spurs to a Champions League final, which is pretty good to be fair. I think the strange thing was with that, the only issue I'd have is it was almost like Spurs were celebrating that they'd won the Champions League when they'd reached the final, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was like
the achievement for us is just getting here.
Yeah. Whereas I think at United, that's not going to be the same thing. I think they probably got, I don't want to say lucky because they did very well to get to the final, but I mean, that game against City and the semi-final against Ajax as well, they weren't the second best team in Europe that year, and they know that.
They were the second best team in both of those ties.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, you get through because you got through. But yeah, the Sterling offside and the fact that Lucas Moura's second half hat-trick to get them through, they did all that, and you can't take that away from them. But yeah, But maybe that's a compliment to him.
Maybe
the way he inspires his teams.
Yeah, maybe
and the way he
well,
inspires Raheem Sterling to be offside.
Especially that last season at Spurs, they didn't buy anyone. They released Dembele in January, didn't they? They sold him. And maybe the Glazers look at it and go, he's a guy who doesn't necessarily demand the world on a stick with transfers.
But their league form went...
I'm not saying that as a fan, that's the last reason I want a manager to come in. But the Glazers might look at it doesn't demand a lot in terms of transfers. works, I'm not saying on a shoestring, but compared to some of his contemporaries, a pretty relatively low budget.
Yeah.
And has all these other elements that we've spoken about. Maybe that's what's appealing to the Glazers, because you've got a guy who, Conte comes in, I want a 250 million quid budget.
Yeah.
Jose comes in, I'm going to spend loads of money and kick off with everyone and say what I want.
Yeah.
Poch comes in and go, here's 100 mil, which is still a lot of money, but in sort of, relative terms, it's not. And he's happy with that, and he keeps you competitive. He keeps you in those Champions League
And he does
places.
have a decent style of play, and he does like to play a high line. Like, do you remember the amount of times that we would just play the ball over the top of Tottenham or through Tottenham, and you're just running on goal because they have this like 40-yard line that they play, which is very sort of almost like Spanish style, where both teams have a very high line, and then everything's just going on with tricky sort of midfielders in about a 20-yard line. And once you break through that, you see people running on goal time and time again. And maybe that works for United, or that's more of a sort of attractive style of play, high pressing, quick football to get through tight spaces. I can see how he would work, but his track record just isn't that good.
No, you feel like you'd have to have a bit of a touch of the Tuchel's about you, where he just goes up a gear.
Yeah.
Like Tuchel got to Chelsea and has actually gone up a gear, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, they're sensational now.
Yeah, and they're like, whilst he was a good manager, I don't think anyone looked at him when he got sacked off PSG and go, we've got to get him because you guaranteed success.
Because the players hated him at PSG.
Yeah, but do you not think PSG is almost a bit of a poison chalice, because you've got so many egos to deal with?
Yeah,
you've got.
Oh, it is, yeah.
You've also got the people that own that not making the decisions for you, but you've got a situation there whereby it wouldn't surprise me if you had, the owner of PSG sat in the dressing room and things like that, and it's not really.
You're right about PSG, but even slightly going back to Dortmund, there was a little bit of like, okay, I think they won a cup and they did okay, but a couple of times, the Europa League against Liverpool, where they were 3-0 up, weren't they, and they lost 4-3. Then there was I get it is a bit of a difficult one at PSG, but the way they went out against us, for example, you just get an element of his Tuchel quite all that. He's a good coach. Is he a great one? And he's gone to Chelsea and he's proven himself to be a great coach.
Was it the Barcelona 5-4 was it the season before as well in aggregate, when they were like 4-0 up from the first leg?
Yeah. So that's what I mean. He had this reputation, didn't he, being a bit of a bottle job. Good manager, maybe not at the elite level. Gone to Chelsea and he's definitely.
But again, though, he had that thing about him where whatever you hear from like football people, whatever that means, writers and journalists and coaches and managers, everyone was like, honestly though, this guy's brilliant. Yeah. And you're like, well, why don't we get to see that more often?
Yeah.
And
it's like Graham Potter. Everyone always goes on about how great of a coach he is.
Yeah.
But why is he managing Brighton if he's that good?
Yeah, and why did he finish 16th? Yeah. And they go, well, XG, but it's like, well, okay, that doesn't matter when you got relegated.
Did very well with Östersunds, though, in Sweden, so that's
all that matters.
It's very good at team building as well, from what I've been told. I'm Roberto, who's been a member of the Academy for 12 months, by the way. Thanks for your support. Says, lads, F it. Give it Howson, Steam brackets. I'm glad you've put that.
Oh, that Howson.
We know it's not Janine.
Cheers.
Till end of season. All jokes aside, going to be a rocky season now. Let's just hope it doesn't get even worse. Up the fucking Reds. Yeah, I agree. It could actually get worse. Let's not forget, this is, United under Glazers. The worst could be yet to come. It could be out of the Champions League in a few weeks.
Like, people saying anyone but Ole, like Ole hasn't been the most consistent manager we've had in 8 years.
I know.
Like, I know he's not won stuff, but
someone's saying Emery was manager of PSG when PSG lost to Barca. Sorry. Okay.
Safely top 4 2 years in a row, and you're like, oh, it can't get any worse than this. It has been worse than that every sort of 2 years since Sir Alex Ferguson left.
Yeah.
So it can certainly get a lot worse than it is now. But yeah, we need to this next period.
It reminds me
is
a bit of Barcelona fans in a way with Valverde when it's similar when there's such a short-term sort of thing around football at the minute, especially online fans, where it's just instant success, instant gratification.
Yeah.
Valverde was top of the league with Barcelona, and he got to the Champions League semi-final the season before, and he was sacked because of the growing pressure on him. And I think a lot of online fans will never be happy. Even if United won the league next season, or even if they won the treble, it'd still be some people.
Why did Donny play more?
Exactly. Yeah. You're never going to please everyone. And I actually think, to be fair to Solskjaer, I think he's the best manager we've had post Sir Alex Ferguson that's actually achieved what he was there to do. I mean, you can go through every manager. Moyes didn't even make it to the end of the season, finished, 7th. Van Gaal, again, finished top 4 in his first season. He won an FA Cup, but by the second season, fans were bored of it.
You need to remember the Van Gaal era, the football. Looking on a screen don't tell you, if you didn't watch those games, how bad it was.
You didn't drive 6 hours to Old Trafford to lose 1-0 to West Brom.
It was literally like the least I've ever wanted to watch United. And obviously I watched every week, but there was United are playing. At least under Solskjaer, I think United are playing this. Like, it genuinely was as least interesting series of football matches I've ever seen.
And even with Mourinho, I mean, I think the difference is between Solskjaer and Mourinho, it felt a lot more toxic when Mourinho was sacked, whereas
Definitely.
I think the fans are still on board with Solskjaer, but they just don't think he's the right man to take them forward. But there's no like toxicity between them. It's almost like a mutual understanding.
Yeah, this isn't going to work.
Keep getting involved in the comments. Let us know who you want, who would be your choice, and why. We've seen a few people saying. Jay Gaming says Koeman. I don't know about that one, but
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Who's next on the list, Jay?
MUFC says Neil Warnock. I think you're being a little bit facetious there. After we've done Poch, haven't we? Zinedine Zidane.
We've kind of mentioned him already, haven't we?
Yeah, we've spoken about him.
Yeah.
I mean, won the lot at Real Madrid. 3 Champions Leagues, I think it was. 2 La Liga. 2 La Ligas. Obviously came in as well, didn't he? At one point where he went away, came back. He had a 12-point gap, and he made he made that up and won the league. So he's obviously
won like 18 of 20 games.
Phenomenal success at Real Madrid. There's no denying that. The question is though, you went through his team the other day, Joe, that he had at Real Madrid, and it's basically one of the best players ever in each position.
And it was the same team for like 4 years as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
He didn't even change. He didn't need to change the team.
It was like, I'll drop Benzema, I'll bring in Bale. Well, there's, I mean.
And also,
there's
the irony was those Champions League runs, they just scraped through. And that's what Zidane was so good at. That last title he won with Real Madrid, I think after lockdown, there was I think it was like 10 or 11 games left. And he treated every single one like they were basically a cup final. And he just got through, grinded the results out, and won the title. And the issue that Zidane faced was actually when he played smaller clubs, similar to United actually, but under Solskjaer. If it was a Rayo or a Levante, he wouldn't be able to get his players up.
Under Louis as well, where we were good against the big teams, and then you're waiting for us to concede against. Was it Van Aanholt scored that last minute win for Crystal Palace against us, and you're waiting for it to happen. You're just waiting for us to concede. But against the big teams, he was good, but he struggled to motivate the players. For those we should be winning 2-3, 4-0. That is the issue with Zidane. And I know we say this all the time, but I don't think there's a manager ever that has won as much as he has in such a short period of time that is rated as low as he is. Like, I'm not saying he's rated really low, but you should be talking about him as like, he's had one of the best starts to a managerial career of anyone in history, up there with Pep, up there with Jose, of like just immediate success on an unprecedented level, starting from your first ever job, first ever season. And yet people are like, I'm not sure he's right for
And also, he had pretty much no experience before he went into that Real Madrid job. He'd literally managed their B team, and that was it.
Yeah. I know.
It's very similar when you say that. It does feel a little bit like shades of Pep, doesn't it? Where, like you say, the B team comes in, obviously a very good player. I know he's a lot better than Pep. Pep was a good player though.
Yeah.
Goes in there with a good team, but just consistently is excellent with that team.
But the difference is Pep is obviously well known for having these like underlying fundamental tactical, we can say genius, unfortunately, because he's done it so consistently now for over a decade. But that's the thing, Zidane doesn't have that. No. And I think if it was after Louis, people might be like, you know what, we've tried the strict tactical thing and it became turgid and it became boring and it became unwatchable. Let's try someone who's a bit more free-flowing, get some confidence in the lads, let them play there a little bit. But because that's what Ollie's done and it hasn't worked, has been a bit more reliant on the go out there and express yourself side of football, which obviously there's more to his tactics than that, but he's more that way than Pep or Louis was. Because we're coming off of the back of Solskjaer, I don't think the fans would accept, or they'd be quicker to turn on another manager that relies on express yourself. No, I think now we want structure and tactics.
The same issue with Ten Hag, because he probably need 3 or 4 years to basically sort his whole system out and get United playing. If United finish 7th or 8th this season under him, he's not going to be given that amount of time. And that's the frustrating thing. Back to what I was talking about earlier, especially now, you're never going to be able to have a system, not someone like a Guardiola, for example, before he was at Barcelona. If he came in and spent 3 or 4 years building up foundations and a system of play and a philosophy, but was finishing 7th, 8th, similar to what Ferguson was doing when he first came, that doesn't happen anymore. So you need a manager that will be able to come in and just win things.
But then, is it fair to say that there are good examples of managers that do have very strict, very strong tactical systems, but do come in and win immediately? And obviously Pep is helped by the fact that he only joins champions. So he's got teams that can kind of win on their own steam for the first year while he's implementing his tactics. But you look at Tuchel, came in, relatively strong system, tactically sort of strict, win straight away. Same, Klopp took a little bit longer, but they were so far off winning the league, it's no wonder. But again, relatively quickly, 3 years, and he's done it with a team that hasn't really challenged for a title in 5 years before he got there. Pep comes in straight away, wins.
Well, it took him a season, didn't it? I know it's only one season, but finished fourth in his first season.
Yeah.
But obviously.
But again, though, that's not 3, 4, 5 years that we're worried about. Yeah. That's
And also with those especially with Pep when he came in, I need 3 new fullbacks, a new keeper. Actually, the new keeper I've got isn't any good. Let me buy a different new keeper, and was backed. It was like, whatever you need. And also, they brought in De Bruyne and they brought in Sterling before Pep got there, knowing Pep was coming.
Yeah.
These are players that will shine in your system.
True, but then he did shine.
Yeah, yeah.
And he did implement
you're right,
a system, and it only took 1 year.
I think my sort of thing with us is we're not going to do any of that, are we? We're not going to back a manager properly. We're not going to also get in players ahead of him getting there because we're so reactive when it comes to managerial appointments. It's ridiculous.
So with the structure we have at the moment,
yeah.
Is it even feasible for us to go after a tactically sort of strict manager? Is it possible to be successful with anyone other than a Conte-style manager?
Especially with United, there doesn't seem to be any plan in place, and they just keep on chopping and changing between managers that have different systems.
Yeah.
So if Ten Hag comes in and he says, right, I don't want Cavani, I don't want Fred, and he sells 3 or 4 players, brings in his own, and then 2 years down the line, the same thing happens again. We're just going to be repeating the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a much more just better system in place that makes sure that Watford do it pretty well. To be fair to them, they can sack a manager and still manage to have a system in place because the manager isn't that important because other people make the decisions. Whereas with United, it's like Mourinho, Van Gaal, Moyes, Solskjaer. It's going to take so much longer to win things because it's just all over the shop.
Well, who is the manager that is the closest to Solskjaer in terms of how he would like his team to play? And obviously we're looking at maybe slightly more structure. I think Pochettino isn't a million miles away. I think Ten Hag isn't a million miles away, especially compared to Conte, who's going to bring 5 at the back, defensive football. Like obviously we're not going to get someone exactly the same. I think Zidane isn't a million miles away. And Rodgers again, it's very much a sort of 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. One of these managers, high lines, pressing. That's what we're looking for, isn't it? But I don't know who's going to come in and win immediately. Or like Ten Hag, yes, he's won. I think it's 3 championships at Ajax, got them to a Champions League semi-final. Has sort of rejuvenated that squad after losing huge sort of chunks of it, losing the captain in De Ligt, losing De Jong, losing Van der Beek and Ziyech.
Yeah, I think it's two Arriva Divises.
Yeah, but they
did
would
they cancel one.
Yeah, last year's was cancelled, but they would have won that.
And also, he won the cup as well.
They were like 15 points clear when that was cancelled, and they'll probably win it again this year. So he's won 2, but really they won 3, and he's on for a 4th. But the thing is, all of those things are good. But is that enough that when it's gone bad after the first year, decent, second year, we finished 5th, I still think he's getting sacked.
Yeah.
Like, even if we're on the right direction, but if you don't quite go right, I think but I've won 3 Eredivises, so...
Yeah. Would you prefer it if he'd gone to like a club in between, like Ajax and United?
For me, I don't mind he's coming straight from Ajax.
I think a step from Ajax to United is a pretty much normal step.
But for the board I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No, I think they look at that and go...
Let me get in some of these super chats and we'll return to this. So I don't want to get them sort of build up. Akshay S says United are one of the biggest clubs in the world, but now it's the toughest job to take in world football. Yeah. Add to it United's PR and inept board. Who would agree for the job? That's a good point. LG Thu says Ollie's legacy would be that he would build a good squad, except for defensive midfielder. We are covered in majority of areas. I agree. Abdullah Ibrahim says, how wrong is it we don't have verbal agreements in place after a string of bad performances? We will see the same issues regardless of who we bring in. And Anan Makashi says, only problem with interim is that some players might leave at the end of this season. Van der Beek, Pogba, Lingard, Telles, Dalot, all might leave. Another rebuild.
Well, if we don't want Van der Beek to leave, he's not leaving because he's still got 3 years left on his deal. Pogba can go, obviously. Lingard can go, obviously. I don't know what Dalot's got left, and Telles, I think, will still have 3 years left. So they ain't forcing their way out. I'm not
overly concerned about Diogo Dalot or Alex Telles leaving. I'll be honest with you. I like Dalot. He's a good kid, but he's nowhere near Premier League standard for me.
He's not a Premier League winning fullback, is he?
No.
Whereas Shaw, maybe on the other hand, has the potential to be on his best day. You know,
I even think Tellez in the Premier League gets found out. I do. And I like these guys, and I see what they offer, especially going forward. But defensively, they worry me.
When we get to Villarreal, I mean, Tellez every single time they had the ball, it was just
him and Dello,
both
the loads, both of them. It was. And do you remember? Was it last season against? Was it Roma? Where was it? Tellez and Brandon Williams came on.
Yeah.
And it was like we almost threw a 6-goal lead away or whatever it was. It was like, hang on a minute, they get another goal. They can actually go through it.
Yeah.
It was shocking. I just think we've got to be realistic about some of our fringe players. I don't think the issue's with the fringe players at United. I think it's the first team players that we need to look at. Should we move on to the next one on the list? Erik Ten Hag, we've spoken about him a lot, really, haven't we? Yeah. I don't think we need to dwell on that.
He would be my choice, by the way.
He would be your choice. Yeah. Arsenal Gunner says Ten Hag, best option there is. Yeah. Do you agree, James? Is he your choice?
Partly. I don't know. I think it's a difficult.
Uza Havery says Ten Hag will be a failure, so there's a bit of disagreement going on.
If Zidane's available, then I'll take him, but then that's a big if, because I don't know. Realistically, I'm not sure what's in it for him. Why would he come from winning like 3 or 4 Champions Leagues with the biggest club in the world?
Yeah, but he's left twice.
Yeah.
It's not like he's like, we're grabbing him from Real Madrid and he's loving it there. But I think he has left twice, and he obviously isn't going to settle there long term, or certainly not now. So he's out of a job, let's not forget.
Yeah, but from his perspective, I think the France job or the PSG job is just a lot easier.
It's easier, yeah.
There's a part of me that feels like with Zidane, the board know they're not going to get him. I don't think they really deep down want him. He is a manager that demands things from the board as well. He's not just going to go, whatever, just give me no budget, don't worry about it, it'll be fine. And I think the board can go, well, we tried to get him. Yeah. It's very good at briefing the press, don't worry about that. We tried to get him, we offered him a lot of money, just didn't want to come. So now we've got this guy. Now we've given it carrot till forever. Do you know what I mean?
3 years,
yeah, because we did try to get Zidane, and I'm going, okay, fair enough. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was going on. If he's not interested, deep down, United aren't really that bothered about him coming, but it looks good PR-wise where you go in, I've got a story for you. We're in for the Zidane. We're offering him loads of money. We're trying our best to get him. And then people go, we tried to get the best manager out there. I'd have Zidane, I'll be honest with you. I think sometimes as well, there's that little bit of the unknown with managers. Like with Rodgers, you kind of know what you're getting in the Premier League and stuff. Zidane, you just don't know. No. He could be that good. That he won those 3 Champions Leagues because he was a genius, not just because he had a great team. I mean, it's probably not the case, but there's that little bit. You think maybe he is that good. And also, I'm just basic. Zinedine Zidane. I don't think anyone had known if he came to United. Sorry?
He headbutts people.
He headbutts people, right? Yeah. He's French, and everyone loves French people at United. That is a fact.
Speaking of French people, should we talk about Laurent Blanc next?
Nice.
Because we get into sort of some of the woods with some of these names.
Yeah, I'll just read out the legit underbosses super chat, and he says, I truly believe that Steve Bruce is tactically good enough to hold the team steady for 6 months to get this group of players top 4. I'll be honest with you, I think it was the Lunatics running the asylum at Newcastle, and I think that'd be times 10 at United.
If you rearrange the letters of that person's username, does it spell out Steve Bruce?
It spells out how's the bacon. Right, so Laurent Blanc is 20-1. We've missed out Rangnick, we've missed out Enrique. Let's move on a little bit. Yeah. Laurent Blanc, 20-1, outsider-ish.
Enrique today, by the way, said, is it April Fool's Day? It's not happening.
Well, he's not going to walk out of a team that could potentially win the World Cup to come and manage Manchester United in November. James, I'll start with you. Laurent Blanc, obviously ex-United player, but not in the same calibre.
He's not like a Solskjaer, is he?
No, it's not.
He was past his prime and he was okay in a team that didn't win much.
Yeah, well, that's but he's always been revered, hasn't he? Like, he's got that sort of air about him, Laurent Blanc. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that France side that won the World Cup was very good. Yeah. And he was a part of that. Same with Barthez as well, actually.
He's unlucky to miss out on the final on that one. But yeah, do you think he'll come? Would you have him?
No, I just don't. Again, I don't understand. It's just like a name that
he would be just for the end of the season. Though. Yeah, he's not going to be. I don't think anyone thinks he's long term. I think it'd just be
like United, just like picking names out of a hat.
Yeah,
they're just guessing.
Nice.
Some onions in there as well. Just
come on,
the cultural appropriation.
Yeah, Sergey Lopez with Super Chat has nothing on it, but thank you.
Laurent Blanc, I think, is someone that makes some sense.
He's got to the end of the season. He does, doesn't he?
Yeah. Obviously not long term. Yeah, he's got some knowledge of Man United. He has won as much as or more than a lot of the managers on this list. He's won more than Poch. He's won more than Brendan Rodgers.
Excuse me.
Or higher divisions than Brendan Rodgers. He's won. Obviously not as much as Zidane, but he's up there in terms. He's won more than Rangnick. He's won stuff. he's kind of in the wilderness a little bit since he left PSG, and that's no disrespect to the teams he's managing, but he's not got a job at a top 5 league since he left PSG, which is slightly odd. He does tend to fall out with people sometimes. There are some rumours of some questionable comments that he's made.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter earlier on, and he said about, like race row, should we say, and certain disparaging comments about women when it comes to punditry, which isn't great, especially if you want a safe pair of hands. You don't want controversy. I'm not saying that someone should be cancelled completely for comments they made.
And also, I don't know how they've been translated and what exactly was said.
But also, it might be something that the board look at and go,
and we're not defending them, but I can't find where they've come from and the context. All I can see is just screenshots.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. That we should be outraged anyway.
Yeah.
But he would make sense to me managerially. Like, he won the league with Bordeaux as well, which is very impressive. Yeah. I know obviously that was at a time when PSG weren't as dominant, but Lyon were excellent around
Bordeaux
that time.
aren't like elite, aren't
no,
they? Like,
they're not Lyon or Marseille or,
you win the league at Bordeaux, you think, that's a good performance.
And then won it 3 times in a row with PSG. Like, he's a good man. He's a very good manager. And like I said, that little bit of knowledge of Man United that he has, I think maybe would stand him in good stead.
It's a bit outdated though. He's going to show up with his Vodafone bag.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I get it, but that's what I'm saying. Little bit, But if they said it's going to be Blanc to the end of the season, I wouldn't hate that.
No,
it wouldn't be ideal. Obviously, it'd be nice to get someone more long term in. But if it has to be end of the season stuff, he's probably the most gettable. And probably would do to the end of the season because he kind of needs to rebuild his reputation. And he's a good manager.
If he comes, are you going to call him Larry White?
No.
Good.
Laurent Blanc for me.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. So get involved in the comments. Let us know what do you think about Laurent Blanc. I guess you got to be a certain age to remember United. Is it 2003 when he left?
Yeah, he was my sort of early years of properly remembering.
Yeah, I mean, I lived through that era and I barely remember him. I know he played 2 seasons. He played quite a lot of games in his first season, but it wasn't like a glittering era in United. We did win the league.
Did he play in that Spurs 5-3 game?
2001?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't know. I might be wrong. Saif Ahmed says, would you take Wenger?
No. No chance. Would you like Blanc?
To the end of the season, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah.
Like, I think someone who could come in, probably got a respect to the dressing room, safe pair of hands.
Yeah, he's won a World Cup. He's won multiple
leagues. You know what I mean? And also knows his place. Yeah. Knows he ain't here next season. We're getting Ten Hag or someone in who is long term. So I won't be. I'm like you. It's not like I've got to get Laurent Blanc. But if we got him, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah. Do you worry that we're going to get someone massively underwhelming? Like Lopetegui's on that list.
I don't mind Lopetegui actually.
Really?
Yeah.
But why?
Because I think he actually did a pretty good job with Sevilla.
Yeah.
And I think his style of football's quite attractive. And I think the whole fiasco with Spain and Real Madrid was completely out of his hands. And I think the issue was that actually we didn't get the chance to see how...
he did. He scored in the 5-3 game, sorry, yeah.
He didn't get the chance to see how good he was as a manager because he was sacked over something that completely wasn't his fault. So he's had the opportunity to completely robbed of him to actually manage a top club.
I get that, but then he hasn't managed a top club properly. So then how... it's one thing saying he had the opportunity robbed of him, but that doesn't mean, just because it was robbed of him, doesn't mean he's therefore good enough.
And also, the issue, well, I mean, especially with Sevilla, they're very impressive, the way that he's worked with Monchi to sign players. I mean, United's recruitment's been all over the shop the past 4 or 5 seasons, and someone like him, he's got a very good track record at signing players.
But is that his track record, or is that Monchi's track record?
But that's what I mean. They work together quite well, and I think this is kind of what I was saying earlier. There isn't a perfect fit, because whatever happens at United, there's going to be a manager that will come in that wants to implement his own style, that wants to sign his own players, but it almost doesn't matter if the board and the Glazers aren't willing to contribute towards that. It's just sort of the same thing that's going around in circles. Yeah.
I agree with pretty much all the things that have been said today, if that's possible.
Yeah.
I think that, the managers, when you talk about Lopetegui, you see what he's done there with his transfers, I get that, but you're going, well, he hasn't managed a top club. Laurent Blanc, safe pair of hands, but, long term, no. Zidane, exciting, the great unknown. But one thing for me is, I think we don't want to just rush this and go, right, who can we get now? Get someone into the end of the season as interim, who is an interim manager, and then in the summer, go out and get the right man for Manchester United who can come here, isn't afraid of the job, can take it on, could get the respect of the people in the dressing room, and has a style. Because, you know, even if that style is just winning football matches, that'll do me. I'm going to run through some comments quickly.
Measure twice, cut once.
Exactly. Manny says, we know Zizou can do it in a sunny Madrid, but can he do it on a rainy Tuesday night in Stoke?
He's probably not going to have to play Stoke unless we get him in the League Cup. So.
Mid-Toka Mario says, this is the most depressed I've been in 30 years as a United fan. Didn't even want to get out of bed today. Why should I care about a new manager when the next one... But the same cycle will repeat with the next one. I understand your pain, bro. Yep. Chris Richardson said, I would love Keane in for the rest of the season. Roy would sort out the egos out and would up the work rate. Then I would have Ten Hag take over. I don't think he'd last to the end of the season. No. MS Doon says Lopetegui is a Spanish Moyes. Sevilla is his level. He was a disaster for Madrid. We've already discussed that. Yeah, you don't need to repeat yourself. You have.
And Sevilla are a much bigger club than Everton.
You made a point. Bathal Sun says, what about Joachim Low or Fonseca? I'm a bit wary of both of them, to be honest. Eamon McAllister said, why are we waiting to the end of the season when a lot of these coaches are still under contract? And there was another one, if I could find it, who someone said about. Anant Makashi says, new manager should come in with his own coaches.
We'll have to wait and see on that, won't we?
Yeah, David Moyes brought in Jimmy Lumsden and Steve Round, and that was an effing disaster. But we'll see what happens. James, where can people find you, brother?
They can find me on Twitter at James Young TV, and also United We Stand.
Can we have a single on James, please? United We Stand.
Which camera is it? That one there?
My former employer.
New edition.
Isn't the new one not got the hairdryer on it?
Yeah, that's that next week.
All right, yeah.
That's still the old one.
Right, yeah. But go and check out James's writing at United We Stand. Took me, I say this every time you're on, it took me, right, 25 years to get in United We Stand. How long did it take you?
Which mean what?
From the day I started working for United We Stand to the day I first got something published in it, there was a 25-year gap.
A week.
Disgusting.
Disgrace.
Where can people find you, Joe?
Joe Smith 93 on Twitter and Instagram.
You know where to find me, Jay Martin. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 700,000 subscribers by the end of the season. And who knows who the manager will be then. This has been a live podcast looking at United's potential new managers. Thanks for watching.